Hello world and welcome to Bipe, the podcast that delves deep into mental health with a more specific emphasis on bipolar disorder, hence the name Bipe. When I was suffering with quite severe symptoms of bipolar 1, I found it very hard to say the word bipolar. So I rather aptly named myself a Bipey rather than someone that suffers with bipolar disorder. But anyway, I've done a bit of podcasting in the past, which was very chaotic and without any real direction. And since meeting someone who studied neuroscience at Princeton University, I decided that what better way to bring awareness to mental health, more specifically bipolar disorder, than to talk about it. Because we, as a nation, as a world, don't talk about it enough, although clearly conversations are being had, very healthy conversations are being had about mental health. This is also come off the back of the fact that we are currently still in a global pandemic, which I believe has caused more problems for people's mental health and really brought it to the forefront of people's minds. It's something we need to discuss. It's something that needs to be better resourced, researched and funded. My experience, as I say, is bipolar 1. I've been having symptoms since I was 18. I'm now 31. I've been sectioned once. I was in a mental health facility in South London for 41 days and 41 nights. And a year ago yesterday, I admitted myself to the Priory in North London, which is a privately funded mental health facility, and I was there for a month. So that's my experience. I've been through a lot of different therapies. I've taken a lot of different medications. I've tried acupuncture, breath work, lots of different things. I'm completely winging this as the first episode. I thought it's always best to do that. So there might be a few slip-ups on this, but yeah, acupuncture, breath work, yoga, meditation, smoking a lot of cigarettes, drinking a lot of alcohol, and I took 14 different medications specifically for bipolar disorder, so antidepressants, antipsychotics, mood stabilisers, anti-anxieties, all sorts, and nothing really worked for me. Some were expensive, some not so. Some were on the NHS, some were private. I've seen psychiatrists, I've seen therapists, I've seen counsellors. I haven't seen a life coach yet, but there's few people in my life who are training to be life coaches, so that's very interesting. But essentially what it is for now is I just want to discuss all things bipolar, really, and just bring it to the forefront of people's minds. As I say, I tried 14 different medications that didn't work, and I got very much to desperation stations. The way in which my bipolar works, which is obviously different for everyone, is that I would have longer periods of depression, and predominantly periods of hypomania. But I think I've probably had one slightly more minor manic episode when I was about 19, and then a very severe episode of mania when I was 29, which was 2 years ago, which ended in me being sectioned. It's a long story for another podcast. But yeah, essentially the 14 different medications didn't really work for me, and then, as I say, I got to desperation stations and decided to look into ketamine treatment. ketamine infusions. So they're administered through an IV in a clinic with a doctor. There's around, as far as I'm concerned, as far as I've been told, there's about 3 or 4 clinics in the UK, but there's about 500 clinics in the US. I've seen a very good documentary that says that it's being used quite a lot in India, and it's a miracle drug as far as a lot of sufferers are concerned. It has an 80% efficacy rate. So I do need to delve deeper into exactly what happens with the 20% that it doesn't work for. But again, that's something that I want to explore with these podcasts. But essentially, the ketamine treatment stabilised me for the first time in 13 or 14 years. And I would never be as, I don't want to say silly, but for want of a better word, I wouldn't be silly enough to say that I'm cured. But for now, it's changed my life completely, flipped it on its head in a very good way. Some very interesting things happening in my life now which just weren't possible before. As I say, predominantly hypomania is quite manageable. You're just sort of an excited version of yourself. Mania is very, very destructive, and as I say, ended in me being sectioned. And then the depressive side of it stopped me from working, damaged relationships, friendships, family relationships. I couldn't work for many years, so it's difficult. It's difficult, but as I say, the ketamine treatment in terms of flipping my life on its head has just opened up those possibilities again. So I'm bettering my friendships, bettering my relationships with my family, with new people, and all sorts. So for me, it was a very effective treatment, but I understand also that with mental health, there is a lot of different methods that work for different people. A lot of people will be in therapy all of their life, or they'll have a period of therapy that sorts them out, and maybe they have to go back and revisit, and that's great. Therapy didn't really work for me. The standard medications didn't really work for me. Exercise didn't really work for me. In lockdown, I walked over 1,000 miles, and as far as I was concerned, it was a great distraction. And while I was walking, it sort of soothed symptoms, but there wasn't really any longevity to it. So whereas some people may get up really early in the morning and go for a run and have endorphins coursing through their veins throughout the day, it didn't really give me that sort of longevity. It just distracted me. And to be perfectly honest with you, in my times of depression, the only thing that made things manageable was distractions. Don't get me wrong, I spent a lot of time in bed, and sometimes even it was hard to have any distractions or to distract yourself. But yeah, that's what I found. And I also learned in therapy that's essentially called behavioural activation. Again, I'm sure there'll be episodes on therapy and things like that, but behavioural activation, as far as I can see it, is essentially doing the things that your brain says not to do. So when all your brain is saying is stay in bed, go back to sleep, and don't face the day, get out of bed, do it. When it's my portable speaker, if you heard that. When you don't want to get up and exercise to make you feel better, push yourself to do that. Agreed, it's not always easy, but that was something that I learned in the Priory, and I thought it was very useful. It's just good to have in the back of your mind anyway. So in terms of an introduction, that's all I have to say for this episode, but essentially that's what it is. This podcast is going, as I say, it's going to focus mainly on bipolar, but with an emphasis on mental health, and I will be talking to Rebecca, my girlfriend, who, as I say, studied neuroscience and has some experiences with mental health. both herself and through other people in her life. I think we all have suffered to an extent with mental health, or we definitely know people who have suffered with mental health. The sad thing is sometimes there's probably people around us who do suffer in silence and we don't really know about it. So that's what my aim for this podcast is to bring the conversation, or continue the conversation, and really sort of give people a better understanding of what bipolar disorder is. It can be a very cruel, debilitating disorder that can ruin people's lives, and in some extreme cases can lead to people losing their lives, which is something that I want to be a part of changing. So anyway, that's the introduction for now. Stay tuned for more conversations surrounding it, and we'll see where it goes. Thanks for listening, and hopefully we can all educate ourselves and talk more freely and openly about mental health. Anyway, I hope you have a great day, everyone. Keep smiling, stay good.